Stay quiet. Stay close. Get proper gloves. Beanie worked. Pull up this and put like thick ass. Hi everyone, my name is Bunniimxrie and today we are back with Mushroom Oasis. Michael, he's controlling and obsessive. But he's kind of cute. Yeah, that's it. We still haven't found our cat Noah and we're still with Michael. Anyways, let's hop into it. I'm gonna try my best, okay? Sometimes my brain moves fast. My lips don't catch up. I sometimes can't read. Anyways, he stood there for a good few seconds, fidgeting with his hands as if he wanted to say more, but finally heading to the kitchen. I watched his back retreat before hoisting myself up and heading to the bathroom. Now that I was alone, I had a moment to gather my thoughts. The nagging feeling was back, a prickling feeling across my skin, raising goosebumps, as if to tell me I shouldn't be here. I just couldn't place my finger on what. I should be careful. I just couldn't shake the feeling that Michael was hiding something. He's been a gracious host so far, but that didn't make him the most trustworthy either. There's definitely something I'm missing. My mind was wondering, even as I undressed and stepped under the shower. The icy chill of the water did nothing to distract me from my nerves. If anything, it elevated it. I was a shivering mess by the time I was done cleaning myself with whatever soap he had laying around. Once I dried myself, I inspected his clothes inside and out to see if there's anything off with them. They smelled like wet grass and burnt wood. Considering his lifestyle, it made sense for his clothes to have that sort of scent stuck to them, I supposed. Putting them on, it just reminded me how big and tall Michael was, compared to me at least. I fidgeted and fiddled with the sleeves and waistband until I could somewhat move comfortably. There's no mirror in his bathroom, so I had to assume I looked like a walking potato sack. Better than nothing. Gathering my courage, I shook out my hands and straightened myself before exiting towards the kitchen. A savory scent filled my nose. Michael did mention dinner was almost done. As I entered, I saw Michael by the stove, idly stirring something crimson in a pot and humming quietly to himself. His content smile widened as he saw me, his ears flicking. I tried not to look uneasy as he looked me up and down. How do they fit? They're alright. Much too big for me. He nodded, turning back to the pot. I can see that. Right. His mouth faltered as he picked up the wariness in my tone. Is everything alright? His eyes held a sense of worry, his shoulders tensing. I can get you something else to wear if you would like. There's no need. He paused, hand gripping onto the ladle tightly as he continued to hesitate. Bunny? There's another pause before his brows forward. I'm not an idiot. You don't trust me, do you? I flinched. Michael looked hurt as he sighed. So, I'm right. His ears flicked by the sides of his head as he turned back towards the stove. Can I just know why? His eyes were sad as he stared at the pot, as if he's been in this situation before. I thought I did everything right. Truthfully, I didn't expect such a direct confrontation. There's a lump in my throat as my fists clenched at my sides. It's just... The kettle started whistling, but he was clearly ignoring it. I swallowed down my growing anxiety and decided to be upfront. I just didn't expect to be here again. It felt like the wrong thing to say when Michael's frown deepened. So you never wanted to be here? I didn't mean it like that. Then how else could you possibly mean it? Another deep sigh slipped out of him as he reached to lift the kettle off the stove, mumbling to himself. I was hoping you'd be different. What was I thinking? What'd you say? Nothing. Michael, I'm... His forlorn? His forlorn expression made my words feel thick on my tongue, forcing me to reluctantly swallow them back down. Any trace of suspicion I had faded and was replaced by a feeling of guilt. I'm sorry. I just thought I'd be home by now. I know. I'm sorry too. Stop! Michael! He lifted his gaze towards me, eyes full of regret. He's sobbing. But is it really so bad, Bunny? I know being lost in the woods with a man you don't know can be scary. But I promise you you're safe. The last thing I'd ever want you to be is scared. He trailed off. So just trust me, okay? Can you do that? Please? Ah, hell no! I swallowed and gave him a nod. My gut still roiled with suspicion, every fiber of my being wary of him to a certain extent. He seemed satisfied, though, eager to move on past the tension. Thank you. His mouth quivered at the edges, all four of his eyes squinting with the slightest bit of hope. Please, let it be different for once. Why don't you take a seat, Firefly? I'll be right with you. He was already turning his back towards me to start preparing the tea. I slowly approached him. Hey, let me help this time. Michael startled, surprised to see me beside him. Oh, sure. Could you get some bowls ready? We're having tomato soup. Oh, do you want some grilled cheese with yours, or would you prefer grilled cheese? But he can cook. Grilled cheese. Got it. I brushed past him, feeling his tail linger by my ankle as I grabbed the bowls and spoons from the bottom shelf. He started preparing the sides, the smell of toasted bread filling the kitchen and mingling with the soups. I took over preparing the tea. Finally, I ladled the soup from the pot into a larger bowl just as Michael finished flipping the last piece. It looks so good! We settled in for a nice hot dinner. Regardless of how I felt about the tomato soup, Michael's turned out rich and creamy with an amazing balance of sour and sweet. I've never had tomato soup. I didn't read that. Can y'all hear that now? There's like soft little music. Anyways. Dialogue I missed. Even if I've never had it as a kid, it still made me feel nostalgic somehow. I've never had tomato soup. I don't think so. Not in this form. There's still a feeling of stilted awkwardness, but the food helped ease us both into a warmer, lighthearted conversation. I didn't realize how hungry I was until I refilled my bowl, Michael watching me with his chin propped in his hand. His own bowl sat empty. Apparently he already had his fill. Is tomato soup your favorite? His question was innocent, though his eyes were observing me carefully as I shrugged. I think I love anything you cook. He stilled, taking a second to process what I said. Oh, well, thank you. No, thank you. Usually I get takeout or microwave dinners. Nothing beats home-cooked food. What's a microwave? I snickered and tried to explain it to the best I can. A metal box that heats up food? That sounds like, what's the word in those fantasy books? Magic? Am I using that word right? I laughed lightly. Sometimes science is just like that. We talked about other kitchen appliances off the top of my head, slowly branching out to other human inventions. He seemed even more interested. I never understood how technology worked. I pulled out my phone and let him fiddle with it. Though the battery dead, there's not much I could show him. He was clearly disappointed. It's about as useful as a brick. For now. Otherwise, I'd have a whole network of information in my hands. His eyes lit up. Like a library? And you can access it at any time as long as the battery is alive? As long as I have internet connection. Right. Internet. I didn't know you could do that. I just see people staring at them all the time. It seemed boring. He looked at my phone again, a look of wonder on his face. Having a whole library in your hands. Nope. Everyone must be really smart then. Well, not everyone uses it like a library. More like a messaging hub or a source of content consumption. Like y'all watching this on your phone. His ear flicked as he stared at me with a blank smile. consumption? You can eat it? Yeah, he has no clue what I'm talking about. How do I explain to him the very concept of Web 2.0? I clear my throat, deciding that I simply won't. Maybe I can show you what I mean someday. His eyes brightened, seeming to like that idea a lot. You mean that? I can have some? Yeah. I think it's about time you start getting a little more modern around here. No offense. Imagine what you could do with a generator. His smile widened just a tad, though there's still a cluelessness to his face that was just a little endearing. Generator. I laughed and reached across to pat his hand, a gesture that made his smile wobble. Like I said, I'll show you someday. A loud thwack sounded against the floorboards, followed by a rhythmic thudding. Leaning over, I could see the tip of his tail was wagging back and forth, the tip of it slapping across the floor almost comically. Michael looked flustered as he laughed softly, pulling his hand back to rub his neck. Sorry. He looked like he had more to say, but exhaled heavily, gathering himself before tilting his chin towards my empty bowl. Are you done? I nodded as he stood and collected our dirty dishes, heading towards the sink to wash them. I followed close behind, carrying the mugs. We made quick work of the dishes, heading back to the living room to relax. Michael headed to the basket of knitting materials, his movement routine. I wasn't sure what to do with myself. Now that food was no longer a distraction, I felt uneasy again, glancing around the room and staring at the window. Michael was eyeing me as I grabbed the stool and dragged it to the center of the room. Is there something outside? His question sounded innocent, but it had a sense of wariness to it. I shook my head quickly. Nothing. I was just... Something catches my eye from under the bed, glinting like a knife. Tilting my head lower, I could see it was a tin container the size of a shoebox. What's that? Michael looked up. Under your bed. A panicked look came across his face. That thing? Just some emergency supplies? Yeah, nothing too special. I had an inkling he was being dishonest again, but I figured I'll leave it for another day. Pull it out. Let's see. It's probably personal. I see. Michael watched me for a moment or two before clearing his throat. Hey, Firefly? I've been meaning to ask. Do you remember what you said at the river? The river? Oh, where I tripped. I pursed my lips in thoughts. Not really. Everything feels fuzzy to me. He seemed disappointed. Oh, not even a little? I shook my head. Why? Did I say something stupid? Just some things. It made me happy. Oh God, I think I did say something stupid. Before I could ask about it, he'd already gestured towards the bed. Well, you should get some sleep, Firefly. Want to wake up nice and early to find Noah, right? That's weird. The idea of looking for my cat once more made me wilt. You really think we'll find him? Michael looked on edge, pocketing his hands. It doesn't hurt to try. But it does hurt to hope. His face twitched. His ears flattened as he thought of something to say, clearly struggling. He finally opened his mouth to respond, his words slow and careful. I'm here for you. Thank you, Michael. He nodded, a strange mixture of polite happiness and hidden anxiety playing across his face. He's probably not used to another person sticking around this long, let alone someone going through a loss he could care less about. Maybe I've been enough of a burden to him. Actually, can you just send me home? His brows raised, his posture straightening in surprise. Are you sure? What about Noah? Don't you want to see if we can find him? I'm sure. A look of apprehension crossed his face. But it's so soon. Noah could be out there. We can... Michael, please. I can't think about him right now. I just want to go home. He fidgeted with the sleeves of his cardigan. But... he looked like he had so much more to say, but whatever I can say apprehension, but I can't say that. Going on in his head was quickly swept behind a reassuring smile. Okay. Get some sleep, Firefly. You've been through a lot. We went to collect his blankets again, already arranging them into a nest like the night before. The words left my mouth before I could think twice. I can trust you, right? A flicker of surprise crossed Michael's face. Of course you can trust me. He didn't say anything else, as if that one line should be enough to convince me. And honestly, it was too late to start an interrogation that's only going to end up in me feeling guilty for upsetting him. I got under the covers, facing the wall with my back towards him. I could hear him setting up his nest behind me before finally quieting down with a satisfied hum. I closed my eyes. Don't you dare do that. He's going to do it again. Oh. The last thing I heard was a gentle crackling of the fireplace, accompanied by Michael's knitting needles clicking away in the dark. Before I knew it, I could hear birds chirping outside the window. The first thing I noticed was the fire must have been out, considering I couldn't hear the familiar pop and snap that came with the room's ambience. The second thing I realized was a hand gently shaking my shoulder awake. Wake up, sleepyhead. I stared, yawning, as I sat up in bed. Jesus. Michael beamed, hand still on my shoulder. There you are. Had a good sleep? I mumbled incoherently. His smile widened into a grin as I blinked myself out of a woozy state. If I didn't know any better, he seemed to enjoy waking me up in the morning just to see my disgruntled expressions. Breakfast is ready. Wash up and meet me in the kitchen, alright? I can't do a guy's voice. It's so weird for me. Give me a second. He took that as my assent, humming his response. Suddenly, his hand reached up to ruffle my hair, messing up. What? Hey! He merrily laughed at my indignant squawk before reminding me once more to get up, his steps already thudding towards the kitchen. See, I might have to stay because Michael keep cooking, and it's really good. Recovering after a moment, I stared at the wall and pondered my situation for a second as I made my way to the bathroom. This was the third time since I've left my house. I'm missing work, missing my cat, and missing my sense of direction. I gotta get back to my life. Today. Quietly reminding myself of my goal, I padded to the bathroom, freshened up, and joined him in the kitchen. Michael was already seated, cutting into some pancakes. His smile was bright as I entered the kitchen, his tail flicking closer to my seat as I sat down. Keep that mushroom tail away from me, Michael. God! It just looks so good. A similar stack of mouth-watering pancakes was placed across him, waiting for me to dig in. Though I couldn't bring myself to muster up an appetite with so many thoughts filling up my head. He seemed to notice the look on my face, laughing nervously. You look serious. Something on your mind, Firefly? I picked up my fork, twiddling with it. I'm just worried about getting home. Michael faltered as he lifted a piece to his mouth. Oh, you're still thinking about that. He seemed annoyed, which was a first. Of course. I've been gone for 3 days. People probably think I've gone missing. His gaze lowered, almost grumbling. Is that so bad? What? Yeah, it's bad. Why do you sound like you don't even care? Stop. Michael frowned, looking up at me now. Why do you sound like you're desperate to leave? What? It's all you ever think about. Are you not happy here? Is it not enough? I sighed, rubbing my fingers over my eyes. Michael, we've gone over this. I've said it once and I'll say it again. You've done so much for me already. But I can't keep pretending everything's okay here. I want to go home. I need to go home. He sucked in a deep breath, grunting something indecipherable under his breath. I only wanted to. He seemed to be battling himself before he finally sighed. I'm sorry. You're right. Of course you're right. Okay. His tone seems genuine, even if the hurt in his eyes were clear as day. I'll send you back today. I narrowed my eyes. I mean it this time, I promise. He held his hand over his chest. I swear on my heart. Save. We're gonna save. We're just gonna do double save. Trust him. I mean, how could I not trust him? He was my last hope. Okay. I paused for a moment before adding quickly, thank you. He nodded and went back to eating, watching me expectantly as he took a timid bite. It was a moment before he swallowed and spoke again. Can you promise me something? His voice was quiet and, for a lack of better words, vulnerable. What is it? Promise me? His mouth hung open for a second or two before he laughed. Promise me you weren't lying when you said you liked my cooking. I snorted. Are you kidding? Do I look like the kind of person to lie? I'm offended, Michael. He laughed again, light and airy. But if I dared to look closer, I could tell it was fake. He probably didn't want to make our last moments tense and awkward. The least I could do was meet him halfway. Whoa! Before long, we found ourselves walking down another path from Michael's. The route was different today, probably because he didn't have any detours in mind. We walked in silence for a while. The only thing accompanying us were the sounds of nature and our footsteps. I couldn't tell what Michael was thinking. I knew he wasn't the talkative type unless spoken to, but right now he seemed eerily quiet. His back was tense, eyes looking nowhere but forward. My voice was itching to say something, anything. But it felt like the both of us had some thoughts to digest, despite it being easier just to say them out loud. Still, the silence was getting unbearable. So, what was that? We both halted in our steps at the sound of rustling, Michael's ears perking up in a direction. What was that? His hands were already raised. His hands were already raising to hold his crossbow, Duffing cocking it with an experienced pull of the string until a solid click was heard. Stay quiet. Stay close. What? I swallowed, my heart picking up speed. He started stalking lower towards the source of the noise, his boots barely making a sound compared to my clumsy feet. Footsteps. The rustling continued, sounding like a scuffle was occurring between the bushes. Closer, closer, until my ears picked up an unfamiliar high-pitched sound. It sounded like a tiny infant screaming. As morbid as that was, Michael actually relaxed as he recognized it. His steps hastened silently towards the source, crossbow lowering until we came across what exactly it was that caused the disturbance. A rabbit! Its small, delicate foot snagged in an old, rusted trap. Its little body trembled as it breathed fast and shallow, no doubt scared out of its mind. Michael regarded it empathetically before unloading his crossbow, disturbed by the caught rabbit, but at the same time relieved at the absence of a threat. Just a rabbit. Sweeping his crossbow behind his back and out of sight, he looked at it for another moment before looking up towards me. Let's keep going then. My mouth dropped in shock. And leave that poor thing behind? He raised a brow, confused at my bewilderment. I need more water. Yeah? But it's going to die. His face twisted into confusion. That's generally what happens to prey animals, yes? He was so nonchalant about it, I had to keep my emotions in check. We can't do that. Look at it. His expression was understanding, if a little annoyed. I am. Someone left a trap. A rabbit gets caught in it. That's how it works. What do you want me to do? Set it free? Obviously. He was frowning now. I can't. If someone is nearby, they'll be suspicious how their catch got free. Does it matter? Animals escape traps all the time. The poor thing is suffering. I know you're smarter than this. If it doesn't die today, it'll die tomorrow. To a trap? To a fox? To a hunter? It probably won't even survive long with its injured foot if we set it free. You're prolonging the inevitable. Can't you put it out of its misery then? He hesitated. Do you really want me to do that? No. But even then, we don't even know if anyone's coming back for it. The thing looks so old. He sighed impatiently, looking stubborn in his decision. That's the point of a trap, is to keep things right where they are until you come back. Ugh. The way he said it just rubbed me the wrong way. He's kind of being realistic, not gonna lie. In a way, his logic makes sense, but still. I could hardly believe how needlessly callous he was being. For someone so sweet with his hands, he was so indifferent about the poor rabbit shaking at our feet. I looked down at it once more, my heart breaking as it started to squeak. Michael. I guess you're right. Okay. Follow me. Whoa. Who was I to say what was right and wrong? Maybe he had a point. It was just one small rabbit in a grand scheme of things. We should just let it be. Michael led us back to where we came, the struggling, squeaking noises of the rabbit, eventually drowned out by the sounds of the forest around us. Left alone to its fate. Guilt spread through my chest like an aching mole, but I quietly stifled it. It's just nature. Let it be. Let it be. Michael took the lead, his footing sure and confident. He must have noticed my unsteadily gait beside him as he suddenly veered toward a clearer path I could easily follow. I didn't verbalize it, but I was definitely grateful for that. As much as the forest was growing on me, getting my feet caught in roots and twigs every few steps gets tiring after a while. Our steps fell into a rhythmic next to each other. Rhythm. I peeked at Michael every once in a while, trying to gauge his mood after what happened. Even after spending so much time with him, he was difficult to read. How can someone both wear their heart on their sleeve yet keep it stitched tight, never letting anyone come too close? I knew he had secrets he wanted to keep close to his chest, but I wish he'd just open up to me a little. The silence that hung in the air was making my skin prickle. What's your favorite animal? I was so caught up in my thoughts, I didn't even realize I blurted the first thing that came to mind. Michael regarded me curiously, ear flicking. My favorite animal? He pursed his lips in thought before his ears perked. Jesus. Jellyfish. I did a double take. It was one thing for him to have an answer so readily, but the choice was something else. A jelly? Why jellyfish? I thought it'd be, I don't know, a bird or something. He shrugged. They're pretty to look at least from pictures I've seen. Plus, I kind of relate to them. How you relate to a jelly? Anyways, he said that without zero hesitation. How? Yeah. Is this me? Hello? His expression faltered as if deciding on the right way he could explain his answer. Let's just say I have something in common. With a jellyfish? Well, one jellyfish. In what way? That they're pretty to look at? Ha! A strangled noise slipped past his throat. No! You wouldn't get it. Try me. No. I groaned, like a dying whale in exasperation, shoulders slumped like I had a back problem. He's not going to elaborate anymore, is he? He probably spotted the vein growing on my forehead as he snickered. Relax, Firefly. You're going to faint on the spot if you think any harder. Yeah, well, it'll be your fault. His smile dropped for a second before his cheeky grin returned. Touch. Touch? Touch what? You know, touch. I stared at him, his happy grin shifting into a confused frown. You know, touch when, it's like saying, you're right? You mean touche? He smiled innocently. Yeah. This man will be the death of me. I don't like how that... He laughed at my screwed up grimace, waving a hand hastily. What about you? What's your favorite animal? Cats. He snorted, a fond smile on his lips. You know what? I don't even know why I bothered asking. Of course it's cats. What's that supposed to mean? He gave me a look. You know what I mean. Yeah, I know what you mean. He pretty much giggled in response. We continued with idle chatter after that. I didn't even know how much time had passed as the tree slowly thinned out, the source of nature muffling as the canopy started to grow scarce. Oh! 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 Suddenly, I heard the soft yet familiar rumble of a car in the distance. I almost didn't pick up on it, fully immersed in whatever Michael was rambling about. Something about the life cycle of a topsy-turvy dorney or whatever it was he called it. Oh! Have we really walked that far already? I left Michael's side and rushed forward. My hair keeps tickling my face because of the fan. Speaking of cat, Lizzie's looking at me like she wants to kill me. I did give them food before I started recording. I left Michael's side and rushed forward. He made a sound of surprise but followed suit. I neared the edge of the forest just as another car drove past. Hey! We made it! I recognized my street instantly. Breaking into a light jog, I almost missed Michael calling for my name as I ran down the road. There! My house was visible from where I stood by the street. I was breathing heavily by the time Michael approached my side, the man barely making a sound as I took in sight. Oh, I missed this. I turned to thank Michael, only to startle when a bundled stranger took his place. Oh. Yeah. Ah! Sorry. People about. I couldn't see anyone around, but I guess he was right to be safe. I guess this was his version of a disguise. If I were to pass him on the street, I don't think I would bother to look twice. I mean, I want to say thank you to your face, but I'd settle for this, I guess. His chuckle was muffled under the scarf. He pulled it down so he could speak properly. Did I scare you? I got distracted. Michael's eyes squinted from where I could see them. And I wonder how you don't get lost every 20 steps. Hey! He laughed at my offended tone. What, Michael? You better not go back in there. Got it? I'm not always going to be around to find you. Who says I need you around to find me? Almost instantly, his eyes hardened under his sunglasses. I'm serious. Don't go wandering in these woods again. Or I might have to start taking drastic measures just to make sure you stay put right where you are. Okay. I'll wander where I please. Sure. He looked over my shoulder towards my house. So that's where you live, huh? Looks cozy. I wasn't sure if he was being genuine, considering he lived in the wooden back ends of the middle of nowhere. Suddenly, I perked up with a thought. Do you want to come by? His eyes darted towards me, shock evident on his face. Me? To your home? I nodded. He froze completely. For a second, I thought he stopped breathing. Oh, snap! Sudden barking and a shout startled us both, my body jerking forward as his arm yanked me close. I heard a soft rustle as his sunglasses fell to the grass from the sudden motion. He got on! He said... His hastily worn beanie shaken off his head. Looking up, it was just my neighbor calling out to their dog. Oh! Looks like Vita's back from college. I paused, feeling his grip tighten. Uh-oh. I looked down at his hand on my shoulder before glancing up at him. Michael? He snapped back to the present, his hand releasing me quickly. Sorry. He looked toward my neighbor and their dog for another moment before turning back to me. I don't think it's a good idea for me to go with you. I don't want to be seen. I deflated just a little. But you have your disguise, don't you? He shook his head insistently. I can't risk it. It's better this way. He spoke with a finality that was starting to become familiar. If he wasn't willing, fine. At least I was. Before he could pick up his accessories, I gently grabbed his wrist. Then can I come visit you instead? What? I huffed impatiently. Bro, If you don't understand what I'm saying, what I'm trying to put down, if you won't come to mine, then I'll go to yours. Once again, he was rendered speechless. Why would you ever want to see me again? At this point, I was starting to look and sound peeved. For all of his good traits, the constant need to build his walls higher around me was starting to get annoying. I folded my arms, looking stern. His eyes widened as if in preparation, ears flattening like a cat in the middle of the scolding. Michael, can you just accept the fact that maybe I enjoy your company and wouldn't mind more? I'm sorry, I just... Nobody's ever... But you wanted to go home so badly. Oh, this man is hopeless. Yes, of course I do. But that doesn't mean I'm going to forget about you completely. Besides, I promised I'd show you what phones do, didn't I? Dismissing the fact that there's probably not much I can show when there's no data in the woods. Honestly, get proper gloves, beanie worked, pull up this and put like thick glasses on, and just tuck your tail in and put him in the house. Not that hard. I'm sure he'll be enthralled by whatever dinky mobile game I had installed at the time. The point was, I just wanted to see him again. So, that means I get to see you again? I picked up on the eager tone in his voice, realizing he wished for the same sentiment. Yeah, I want to. His voice warbled for a second. Firefly. He cleared his throat, laughing to himself. You can't imagine how much that means to me. A lot. It means a lot. More than you know. I nodded, a giddy smile creeping onto my face. How's next weekend? He tilted his head. That's 7 sundowns from now. 5. His smile widened, eyes squinting in absolute delight. Okay. I'll meet you here then. I smiled at him, figuring this was goodbye. Even though he did his little hug him. That's really cute. I didn't think twice, arms spread and wrapped around him before he could react. Michael froze from head to toe, inhaling sharply as his shoulders tensed. For a second, I thought I triggered a fight or flight or freeze response. It took a few seconds. He's purring. He's purring. I'm sorry you couldn't hear it in my last playthrough, but it took a few seconds before he shifted to reciprocate, lightly placing his hand on the small of my back in a loose hold, fingertips splayed awkwardly along my spine. He seemed to gain confidence as he wrapped his arms around me properly, a shaky sigh leaving his body as he relaxed. A faint, rhythmic rumble emitted from his chest, my eyes widening at the strange feeling. Was he purring? I knew I heard that sound before, but he was definitely purring. I didn't have time to dwell on it for long. His grip was getting tighter. 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 Bro, he almost killed me. When another car passing by made him jump and release me. I had to step away to catch my breath after the squeeze. His arms dropped to his sides with a blank stare in my direction. Oh. Out of the corner of my eye, I could see his hands clenching tightly as if holding himself back. I looked up at him, expecting him to say something first. Instead, he just stared at me like I grew a third eye. I quickly cleared my throat, cheeks starting to burn. Anyways. I gave him one last light punch to the shoulder. It felt like punching a sack of grains. I'll see you next weekend. Uh-huh. Ignoring the heat on my face, I looked both ways before jogging across the street. My neighbor in their yard looked up as I approached, their eyes lighting up in recognition. Bunny? Oh, Coco! Their hands fidgeted with the frisbee in their hand as they approached, their ever-loyal Laika following close behind. I was wondering where you've been. I dropped by to give you some cake over the weekend, but you weren't home, and you didn't answer your phone, and your packages were piling up at the door, and I held my hands up in a placating gesture. Vita, I'm fine. At our feet, Laika was dutifully pawing at their elbow to calm them down. Oh. Their mouths stopped midway through another sentence, blinking rapidly. Sorry. They reached down to pat Laika's... Laika? I'm struggling, okay? They reached down to pat Laika's head, significantly calmer as they asked me again. Where were you? Where have you been? I was, visiting a friend for a digital detox. Off the grid and all that. They blinked slowly, nodding. Oh, that sounds exciting. By the tone of their voice, they didn't mean that at all. Oh, what about Noah? Did you manage to find him? My mood instantly dropped. No. It's why I went away in the first place. You could say... It took a few seconds for Vita to understand what I meant. Oh, I'm sorry. It's fine. They straightened, a flash of empathy on their face before they smiled. Well, Laika and I are around for the semester break if you need anything. We should do a movie night. Maybe that'll lift your spirits. I found this really good one I think you'll like. I did some research and I feel like it's right up your alley. Laika and I could take a quick drive to the store, so just let us know when you're up for it. I could get your favorite snacks and stuff. Laika gave a happy bark at the familiar word. A fond smile quirked at my lips. Thank you, Vita. I'll bring the orange soda. Their expression lit up happily. Take care! I bid them goodbye to walk up my driveway. Once again, I got to my door. I had an urge to turn around one last time. I was surprised to see Michael still standing. That is freaky! That is creepy! He can't be doing that. Nah! I was surprised to see Michael still standing by the forest edge, shadowed by the trees. Our eyes made contact, his own in fierce piercing yellow shining against the shade. I gave him a big wave. It took a moment, but he waved back. Smiling to myself, I unlocked the front door and let myself inside. It was surreal standing in my doorway again. I felt like Alice who just woke up at the end of a book, feeling like I dream of Wonderland. I tossed my keys and my backpack by the hall carelessly before plugging my phone into the charger. I dreaded playing catch-up with the people who might have tried to reach me during my absence. Work, family, friends. I groaned aloud, flopping onto the living room couch. Anyways. Oh well. At least I had this weekend to look forward to. Noah's gone! That's all from day 3 of Mushroom Oasis because it's just a demo. More updates coming in the future. I'm not sure if there's a different ending, but this is the end of Mushroom Oasis. If you enjoy this game, the link is down below and you can play it for yourself. Hopefully, I don't know if there's an actual... It is the demo, but I'm not sure if there's an actual version where you do find your cat. But hope you guys liked this episode of Mushroom Oasis. This is it, and I will be hopping on to a different game. Like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.